And the
because it's on recess, but because of anthrax. The Senate will be in session tomorrow. That is, senators will be in the chamber, but most, if not all of their offices will be closed, and most of their staff will not be reporting to work because of anthrax. So you should expect that most of this broadcast tonight will focus on the dangers of biowarfare. But to anticipate some of your questions and complaints as we air some of these terribly troubling issues, let me ask you to briefly consider a world in which we essentially shut down our own information gathering process. It is, in most countries of the world, the only kind of news that shows up in newspapers or on radio and television. The government decides what is in the national interest, and the media disseminate that information. You may find yourselves wondering tonight and in the days to come whether that might not be a safer, a more reassuring environment. But be careful what you wish for. Americans are accustomed to knowing what is going on in their world, and bad news is a necessary part of that. It is how we analyze our problems, how we find solutions, but above all, it is also how our public officials often are held accountable. Earlier this evening, just as I was sitting down to interview the Secretary of Health and Human Services, you'll hear most of that interview a little later, news broke that the Centers for Disease Control had found the anthrax in Florida appears to match the strain of the anthrax in New York. That could be one more indicator of an organized attack.
Well, David Fleming from CDC has made that. He's the Deputy Director of CDC. And I was on the teleconference with him a few minutes ago, and he indicated that was the finding. So as long as David Fleming said that, I have all the faith in the world that's correct. But he also went on to say is that the anthrax in Florida, in New York, in Washington, all three were sensitive to the antibiotics. All three of them shown the same sensitivity, which means, in other words, that all the anthrax is able to be killed or taken care of through the antibiotics that we've been talking about, Cipro and penicillin and doxycycline.
Gotcha. Normally, this is not the kind of question I'd be posing to a Secretary of Health and Human Services, but in this kind of war, you're as much a general as anyone over at the Pentagon is. What do you conclude from that? Do you have to conclude that you're up against the same group of people? Do you have to conclude, in other words, how significant is it that that both of these attacks in New York and Florida use the same kind of anthrax? I don't know what the statistical probability of that is.
I would have to say that you would have to pretty much draw the conclusion that there has to be some connection in order to have the same anthrax in Florida and New York. But as to whether or not it's one individual, a group of individuals, whether or not the anthrax that was sent in Florida is the same group that sent it from same individual or individuals or a group of individuals in Trenton, I don't know. That is for the FBI to decide.
The big news of the day, of course, was the investigation of the anthrax attack on Capitol Hill, here in Washington. It is now clear how sophisticated and dangerous that attack was, and as my Nightline colleague John Donvan reports, how profoundly it has shaken Washington.
As far back as anyone can remember, it has never happened before. A closure of the House of Representatives for several days under duress. Unprecedented. But then again, so was an attack of anthrax on Capitol Hill. The shock today was over how many people were exposed, and the challenge for members of Congress as the information came out through the day and they had to consider themselves at risk personally was what they were supposed to do now.
It's an honor for me to appear in front of your distinguished committee.
The day began with business running on schedule. It is exactly 10 o'clock.
There are significant questions about our preparedness.
Secretary of Health and Human Services is at a hearing, answering questions and seeking more money for civil defense.
We're joining you on the West Coast, special edition of Good Morning America, because there is news.
Then at 10:02 a.m., news is breaking. ABC's Linda Douglas on Good Morning America.
We are being told that roughly 20 members of the staff of Senator Tom Daschle, that is either more than 20 or fewer than 20, have tested positive for anthrax.
Soon after this, Speaker Dennis Hastert tells the media the House of Representatives will close after business today, and he puts the number of anthrax exposures even higher at 29.
This stuff has gotten into the ventilation system. It's going through the tunnels. It was into the system of those buildings, and also found in the mailroom in the Senate where packages have moved through.
Hastert has already shared this decision with his fellow Republicans at their regular Wednesday morning meeting. Congressman Chris Shays was at that meeting.
The Speaker looked somewhat serious and explained that a handful, frankly a few dozen of Mr. Daschle's staff have contracted this disease, and that decisions were made to send us home.
Where were you?
Congresswoman Connie Morella was also there.
And that's when he started to say anthrax, and everybody was absolutely quiet. And he said it in a very serious tone. But the point was, as we know, we don't panic. We have the experts who can handle it all.
11:01 a.m. Word of all that's happening now reaches the hearing room where Tommy Thompson is still testifying.
Secretary Thompson, Senator Levin, I apologize for intervening. I just received a message, a request from Senator Daschle that we recess this hearing for now, and that the two of you come with us to the joint caucus of senators to be part of the briefing.
12:45 p.m. Senator Daschle briefs the media on what's going on, and the number goes up again.
I just want to report that in our office, room 509 of the Hart Senate office building, 31 people now have had positive nasal swabs. Not all of those are members of my staff. There were some Capitol Police involved.
Inside two congressional office buildings, lines have formed already for people to be tested for exposure to anthrax anywhere on Capitol Hill. This is in addition to the nearly 1,000 people tested earlier this week.
Is there fear in the building at all? Is that the right word?
It's an absence of ease. Everything that we do suddenly has become different. It's taken on a different dimension. We no longer take for granted what we did before, because we know that things that to us are surreal have become real.
12:50 p.m. The Daschle news conference continues. The Senate, he declares, unlike the House, is not shutting down.
It is my strong determination, and Senator Lott's as well, that we will not let this stop the work of the Senate. There will be a vote this afternoon. We will be in session and have a vote or votes tomorrow. And I am absolutely determined to ensure that the Senate continues to do its work.
1:52 p.m., the House Speaker again. He confirms his decision to close the House so it can be swept for possible bacteria.
Speaker, why is the House going out and the Senate staying in? They are being very disdainful of the House.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm not sure if they're disdainful or not. It was agreement this morning that we would close our offices this evening.
Standing over Hastert's shoulder, Congressman J.C. Watts.
At this point, really, you're saying that the safety of the people who work there trumps any symbolism that might be involved in having to close the building down.
There's a difference in being symbolic and in being stupid. And I think that's what the Speaker and the Minority Leader, I think that's what they concluded. We need to do the smart thing based on the evidence that we have before us.
Others, however, have some doubts about closing the House.
You know, why don't we get out of one building, you inspect it, and we use the others, and we just go building by building. There are just some of us, I think, who feel that ultimately, we need to do our work, and we can't have anyone stop us.
3:10 p.m. New details. It wasn't just Daschle's office.
That's right, Greg. There is some indication now that at least two staffers from a staff other than Senator Tom Daschle apparently testing positive for exposure to anthrax. Those two staffers, we're told, coming from the office of Wisconsin Democratic Senator Russ Feingold.
Telling you.
Despite all this, the Senate does stick to business.
Mistake
the Senate floor,
for our government,
4:44
for this administration,
p.m.
and I think we need more clarity from the administration about how we're going to get the food to the people in Afghanistan.
And outside on the lawn, members of Congress offer context for the day they've been through.
You know what? It will happen again. Can it happen as easily? Probably not, because our mail is going to be inspected even more diligently. It just means that the system slows down a bit.
But this is all new to us. We don't have any models to use. We don't have anything to tell us we can go to page 37 and see how do we proceed with this. We think it's important that we manage this thing properly and prudently, and based on the decision today, we felt like that was a prudent thing.
Do you feel that Americans are watching to see how you in Congress behave? When you say you're a model, do you think they're actually looking at your behavior and taking a note from you?
I really do. I think we established kind of the climate of the environment and our feeling, and I think this is a universally felt among the members of Congress feeling, is that we're not going to be intimidated. We're going to stand firm.
Compared to other times, the spaces around the Capitol looked deserted today, but we did find a tourist or two, and one of them was Jerry Clayton, and this is what she took from this hectic day in congressional history.
The amazing thing about the Capitol is that you can be so accessible to it, even after the events. You know, we're walking around. Yet the feeling is very, very different.
Different how?
I was always proud of the Capitol, always loved the Capitol. It has that much more meaning now.
I'm John Donvan for Nightline in Washington.
Capitol Hill was not the only place today with new reports of anthrax. More on that when we come back.
This is ABC News Nightline, brought to you by Lexus.
I like to look at things of beauty. They make me dream. They make me wish. They make me smile.
The all-new Lexus ES 300, a new world of luxury.
When they need to get it fast, count on express mail from the U.S. Postal Service. The United States Postal Service is everywhere, so you can be anywhere.
What should you do first in a terrorist attack? And what shouldn't you do? Finally, vital new information every family needs to know right now. Primetime Thursday.
Certified pre-owned BMW. Getting one couldn't be easier. Lease or finance one by October 31st and we'll make your first payment. BMW, the ultimate driving machine.
We're gonna go do some errands for Mama today. Oh, what is that? Ah. Oh, we're gonna go for a ride.
Baby. Yeah. The 2002 Accord from Honda. You can't explain it until you have one of your own.
Now lease a 2002 Accord LX for $239 a month for 39 months.
It was another day of anthrax scares, both real and imagined. Here's Nightline correspondent Chris Bury.
Drip of additional anthrax exposures is indeed causing ripples, large and small, from one end of the country to the other. The power centers of New York, the nation's biggest city and its media capital, remain a clear and obvious target. Today, this Manhattan building was the latest to be roped off in a scene that is all too familiar. Inside, anthrax spores had been detected in the office of Governor George Pataki. None of the employees has tested positive, but as many as 80 of them are now on antibiotics as a precaution, including Mr. Pataki.
Not only do I feel fine, but I intend to go see my kids, go out to a restaurant, try to get tickets to one of the playoff games.
The governor did his best to be reassuring, but if the true aim of these targeted anthrax deliveries is to sow the seeds of fear, they are proving potent weapons.
Yes, I am nervous even. I even called my boss and told him that I'm not even coming back to work for today.
I don't know if it's ever going to stop. I don't know when it's ever going to stop. It's scary.
I have a cautious standpoint. You know, I'm not afraid, and I refuse to allow it to stop me in my life, but I'm definitely more cautious, and I think about it. I'm more somber than I was in the past.
For more than a decade, public response teams have conducted drills for biological or chemical attacks in crowded places like subways. What they haven't trained for is the kind of warfare these narrowly focused incidents represent. Neil Livingston runs an international security firm in Washington.
This is classic asymmetrical warfare. In other words, you can use a little bit of a very deadly substance, affect a very few people, and you can essentially make war on an entire country, on an entire country's economy. And so this is the kind of warfare that our policymakers have been dreading for years because there are no easy answers to it.
Wall Street provided one barometer of that today. The stock market opened strong, then dropped with a nervous twitch at each piece of news from the anthrax front.
The market is very psychological, and when the market sees one piece of bad news followed by another piece of bad news followed by another, it clearly has a negative impact on market psychology, and we saw that throughout the day.
Among the more insidious byproducts of that terror are all the hoaxes and false alarms that can be nearly as jarring as the real thing. Consider what happened today in Baltimore, where the mayor, midway through his police commissioner's weekly press conference, dropped this little bombshell based on a tip he got from the FBI.
That we've received some very general, non-specific, unconfirmed information regarding an anthrax incident proposed to occur in Baltimore at approximately 1:15 p.m. this afternoon.
The city did remain remarkably calm, but deciding whether to go public with such a scary but vague threat is exactly the kind of dilemma that officials at all levels of government are now facing.
I think most people are plenty scared. People don't need to be ignorant as well, or be given false information or media accounts that are only the half-truth.
Mayor O'Malley believes the news may have leaked in a far more frightening way if his office had only informed hospitals and police.
I think some of us in government sometimes worry a little too much about not panicking the public instead of worrying about informing the public when we should. I would rather have my city informed.
Every anthrax scare and every false alarm adds up to an enormous nationwide strain on resources, from hazardous material teams to emergency operators like the extra office that opened in Omaha just to handle all the anthrax calls.
It's 911, this is Venetia, how may I help you?
And in Dallas, 911 lines have been overwhelmed.
We have received some mail that has a white powdery substance and want to report that.
Already, pharmacies are so backed up, filling prescriptions for antibiotics like ciprofloxacin, that some Americans are crossing the border into Mexico to find them. But today, the American Medical Association warned taking unnecessary antibiotics contributes to the problem of antibiotic resistance, which is a major public health concern.
If we do widespread misuse of ciprofloxacin, the next shoe to drop a few weeks from now, a few months from now, is going to be drug-resistant, common garden variety infections all over America.
Laurie Garrett, a Pulitzer Prize-winning science and medical writer, fears the system is already overtaxed.
In public health departments all over the country, people whose usual duties have to do with general disease surveillance, with protecting your drinking water, protecting your food, watching out for the air quality, those sorts of basic health issues are being shoved over into this emergency category to deal with the hundreds and hundreds of hoax calls. This is just more than our system can take, and if we have to keep this pace up, for days and weeks on end, something's going to crack. People just can't keep the pace up. Everybody needs sleep, and other programs in public health are going to suffer.
What makes the threat so devious is the very mundane nature of the mail, and that makes people feel vulnerable, even if they have little cause to fear an exposure, according to psychiatrist Carrie Sulkowitz.
It's one thing to, for instance, know that you can try to defend yourself against terrorists at the airport by heightening security, but the fact that the anthrax is arriving by regular U.S. mail makes people feel a lot more vulnerable. There's a lot. It's a lot more difficult to protect against that. So people are feeling extremely vulnerable right now.
For all the ripples, real and imagined, this asymmetric attack is causing around the country, it's important to remember that the casualty count remains relatively low. As of tonight, only 4 confirmed cases of anthrax are known. 2 of respiratory poisoning, including the man who died in Florida, and 2 cutaneous or skin forms of anthrax, both in New York City. The trouble is, of course, the terrorists have chosen targets, political leaders and the media, guaranteed to multiply the fear factor. Ted?
Thank you, Chris. Late word tonight that Harrisburg International Airport in Pennsylvania was shut down and airspace restrictions implemented. A spokesman for 3 Mile Island said the nearby nuclear power plant had received an unspecified threat. So security measures were issued and flights in the air near Harrisburg diverted. In a moment, a conversation I had earlier with the Secretary of Health and Human Services, Tommy Thompson.
Enter a new era of discovery at Bristol-Myers Squibb, where groundbreaking genetic research is underway.
Winning the Tour de France was a victory for cancer medicines. But Luke, it's just the start of incredible things to come. Imagine, Luke, your medical history, the story of your genes on a card you carry in your wallet. Your doctor sees your cancer coming years before and gives you a daily pill to take that could prevent it.
At the Bristol-Myers Squibb Center for Applied Genomics, researchers strive to unlock the secrets of breast and colon cancer, Alzheimer's, and diabetes. They're developing medicines tailored to your unique genes. Bristol-Myers Squibb is beginning a revolution in medicine. Our goal is to extend and enhance life, and to lead the way in new frontiers against disease.
Hope, triumph, and the miracle of medicine. Bristol-Myers Squibb Company.
Everyone knows Santa Claus, but behind the magic is a massive global operation. We work with UPS to bring in raw materials, produce goods, wrapping paper, ground, overnight, international, you name it. Just this morning, I had a shipment of candy canes stuck in customs in Belgium, and one call to my UPS rep straightened the whole thing out. There have been instances where the naughty got toys and the nice got coal, but it's not going to happen on my watch.
Coming up, Muslim students speak out.
Our voices have not been heard so far.
Islam is not a monolith. Progress is being made. The Quran supports America.
Politically Incorrect with Bill Maher.
The day has ended. Amber blends to twilight blue. The world softens a bit around the edges. You release all the cares of the day, and nothing else in the world matters. Bella Sera Pinot Grigio. It's going to be a beautiful evening. Or as they say in Italian, it's going to be a bella sera.
Lisa?
Tom.
Nice to meet you. I got a little held up at work.
Where's that?
LA.
Introducing the 260 horsepower Acura TL Type S.
We're at the offices of the Department of Health and Human Services, and I'm joined here by the Secretary of Health and Human Services, Tommy Thompson.
Welcome to the department, Ted, and thank you for coming over.
Well, thank you. You're kind to have us here. You've been trying to be as buoyant and optimistic as you possibly can, and I realize that this is a fairly new subject for you too. Do you think perhaps you erred at the beginning in being a little too optimistic in terms of your projections of the level of preparedness, both of your department and of the country as a whole?
No, I don't think so, Ted. You know, when you look at it, we've been able to respond very effectively ever since the terrorists attacked on September 11th. We were able to move 50 tons of pharmaceutical supplies into the city of New York within 7 hours, and our plan said 12 hours. We were able to do that in 7 hours. We were able to deliver 50,000 tetanus shots up to the first responders by 5 o'clock on September 11th. We were able to deliver all kinds of gas masks and so on and so forth in order to cover the faces of the first responders. And we've been able to respond to the outbreak of anthrax in Florida and in New York and now in Washington, and we've been there. So I don't think that I have been too optimistic. I think that we've been able to respond.
You do realize when you talk about the outbreaks of anthrax, yes, you haven't had an outbreak of anthrax yet. You haven't had a major anthrax attack yet.
That is true.
I mean, in the event of a major anthrax attack, you could be looking at 20, 30, 50,000 people who have to be treated right away.
Well, let's hope that
well, we all hope and pray that that's not going to happen,
That's true.
but at times like this, it is at least necessary to consider it. And I guess what I'm asking you is, in the event of an attack like that, if in fact they have succeeded in weaponizing anthrax, and they have a sufficient quantity that they could either introduce it into the ventilation system of a building or into a subway or drop it from a plane in a vaporized form, would you still make that same projection? Would you still say you are prepared to deal with any eventuality?
I'm saying that we're prepared to respond, and we have
respond effectively.
Well, I think so.
Completely.
Well, I hope so, completely, you know, because a lot of people are going to be depending upon us, Ted. And we have 7,000 medical professionals, doctors and nurses, that are on heightened awareness right now, and they're divided in 90 medical assistant teams across America that can move in.
I have no doubt that you have all kinds of people and all kinds of equipment and all kinds of plans and preparations. If you had everything you need, there was really no need to turn to Bayer and say triple your production of Cipro.
Well, it's just like anything else, you know. People in America never thought that we would have a bioterrorist attack. Now that we have a bioterrorist attack with anthrax, people feel that we need additional supplies. And I think that...
Do you feel we need additional supplies?
I think that it's safe. It's much better to be safe than sorry. So we're asking Congress to give us some extra money to go from 2 million individuals that we can now safely administer to up to 60 days to 12 million.
Talk to me for a moment about the anthrax spores that were found in Senator Daschle's office. Yesterday, some federal government official was clearly leaking, because every news organization in this town had the story, and you saw the stories. You heard them last night on television. You saw them this morning in the various major newspapers, talking about it as being a weapons-grade anthrax. You folks and the folks up in the hills seem to be backing away from that a little bit. Spell it out for us. What was it?
Well, I don't know. I've never said that it was weapons grade.
No, and you were never quoted as saying it.
Never quoted, no, because we don't know. I mean, those kind of tests are being done at Fort Detrick, and at this point in time, there's no indication, any conclusion or research that it's any different than the anthrax that was sent out in Florida or in New York.
You're telling me there is no evidence that it was different?
Well, no evidence that it is more virulent or stronger as of yet, because there's no conclusive evidence from the research labs. What we try to do, Ted, we try to make sure there's confirmation. We have, when we receive anthrax that tests positive, we send it to one lab, and then it goes to a second lab for confirmation, just to be sure. And that research has not been done yet. And so, or the analysis have not been completed in both labs. So until it is, I cannot confirm whether or not it is different or the same or stronger or not than the anthrax that was delivered in Florida and New York. And so it's inconclusive. It would be speculation on my part.
But you have no information then that suggests that what was found in Senator Daschle's office was appreciably different from any of the other anthrax that's been found so far?
Conclusively, no, I do not.
Well, I listened carefully to what ex-politicians say.
Yes.
In other words, you're hearing that it probably is different, but you don't have conclusive evidence of
well, you can make that assumption, but all I do...
I don't want to make an assumption. I'm asking you directly. Is that what you're telling me?
Ted, I can tell you this much. I don't have the research analysis, and CDC has not finished its tests. And until CDC finishes those tests, I'm not going to speculate as to whether it's stronger or not. I've heard, as you have heard, that it's different, but conclusive evidence and research analysis has not been given to me to be able to make that statement.
Mr. Secretary, we're going to take a short break. Okay. Back with more in a moment with Secretary of Health and Human Services, Tommy Thompson.
We Americans are going through a tragic time. We all have painful emotions following these hideous events. Here are some ways to get through this time of crisis. Please ask for help if you want it. Avoid repetitive viewing of these terrible images and do something. Donate money, donate blood, or volunteer. For more information, contact your local American Red Cross chapter or visit our website at redcross.org. Together, we can save a life.
Turn right here. Excuse me. Do you know where the art museum is?
It's 2 blocks up.
Thank you.
You're into art?
Oh yeah. Sculpture, mostly. I mean, I like paintings too, but...
The 2002 Mitsubishi Galant.
She was helpful.
Right now, pay 0 down, 0 interest, and 0 payments for an entire year.
What are little girls made of? Sugar. Spice. And everything.
Nice.
The all-wheel drive Subaru Forester. Sport utility top. Car easy.
So, what are you made of?
Now you can get an APR as low as 2.9% on all 2002 Forester models.
Now you see them, soon you won't. It's the Volvo Model Year Changeover. With special values and savings on the entire line of 2001 Volvos. Like the nimble Volvo S40. But you'd better hurry. The Model Year Changeover ends soon. The 2001 Volvos, now disappearing at a Volvo retailer near you.
With all their years of experience, the pros at Meineke really know their brakes. They take care of what's important under your car, so you can take care of what's important inside it.
At Meineke, you won't pay a lot, but you'll get a lot.
For big savings on brake service, stop into Meineke. You'll get 50% off, lifetime brake pads and shoes. But you better hurry before these big savings are gone.
At Meineke, you won't pay a lot, but you'll get a lot.
It's Sunday, Jim.
Comfortable, spacious, magnetic. The Civic from Honda.
And back once again with the Secretary of Health and Human Services, Tommy Thompson. We've been focusing on anthrax, but it is unfortunately just as possible that the next attack could be smallpox. My understanding is that the CDC has invited experts to come in with protocols to examine the notion, I stress the examine part, to examine the notion of a wide-scale, massive inoculation campaign against smallpox. Could you tell us where that stands and what the point of that is?
Well, I'm not sure the CDC is doing that protocol for a widespread inoculation. I don't think they are. What we're doing, Ted, is we are looking at the possibility of expanding our smallpox vaccine supply from 15.4 million to 300 million, so that we would have enough vaccine on hand to inoculate any and every American if we did have a smallpox breakout or an epidemic. And smallpox is very contagious, different from anthrax, which is not contagious, and therefore people in the White House from the president on down felt that it was necessary for this administration to be prepared. And that's why we're requesting from Congress the necessary financial resources to go into the marketplace and to purchase some new vaccine. The 15.4 million dose of vaccine is the old vaccine carried over from the 1970s.
Is it still good?
It's still good. It's being analyzed right now at NIH, and they say it's very potent. In fact, NIH is making a study right now to determine if, in fact, we split it 5 to 1, 10 to 1, 100 to 1, whether it still be effective. And the preliminary conclusion is 5 to 1, we would still have about a 95% effective rate. So actually we could split the dosage from 15.4 by 5 to 1 factor and have 77 million dosage of vaccine available to the American public today, if needed.
When you talk about the possibility of creating 300 million vaccinations for smallpox, that would be clearly enough to vaccinate every man, woman, and child
in America.
Are you getting the recommendation from your medical experts that we ought to do that in anticipation or only after a smallpox outbreak?
No, we're getting it basically that we want to be prepared. And I don't know if anticipation is the right word. We want to be prepared if, in fact, there was any kind of a smallpox epidemic in America. And we would also, of course, be concerned about a smallpox epidemic any place in the world because it's so contagious. We want to be prepared for it. But we also understand, and everybody does, that smallpox has been eradicated in the United States and the world since the early 1970s.
Precisely, and that's why none of us has an effective vaccination anymore.
And you were vaccinated, and so was I.
As a kid,
but
absolutely.
You have to get a booster within 10 years in order to be effective. So you have about a residual rate of about 15% if you had any kind of a smallpox vaccine.
But I just want to be clear, you're not recommending then that sometime in the next few months everybody go out and get a smallpox vaccination?
No, because we looked at that situation, Ted, and we discarded it because the side effects of smallpox vaccination are sometimes severe.
You're going to lose 2,000 or 3,000 people just because of the vaccination?
Just because of the vaccination. Well, I'm not going to give you that number, but 1 out of every million, more than likely, could end up in death. There could be some mental retardation caused by the inflammation of the brain if you had a mandatory vaccination plan. So, no, we're not going to go into a mandatory vaccination plan.
Do you ever fall asleep at night now saying, why did I ever leave the governorship of Wisconsin?
I never thought that I was going to end up my career becoming an expert on bioterrorism and embryonic stem cells, and those have been the two subjects that have dominated most of my time since I've been here, Ted. And sometimes I wonder why I ever left the state of Wisconsin.
Mr. Secretary, you're good to give us the time. I know how busy you are. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
I'll be back in a moment.
You've all read this. Top Shelf Consultants. $2 million. Pure strategic thinking could put us years ahead. The board is psyched. I'm psyched. It's a brilliant plan. One question. Given our current technology, is this implementable?
No.
No. Strategies you can actually execute?
No.
Now there's a plan.
Still psyched?
I know something of attraction. I know something of power. The new car, I think it knows too.
The all-new Lexus ES300, a new world of luxury. Her life is classified.
Have you ever spied on anyone?
Don't miss America's #1 new drama, Alias, Sunday at 9/8 Central on ABC.
Right, I know. Cash only.
The all-new A4. Suddenly, every ride's exciting.
Remember last year and what a hard winter it was?
Town Fair Tire, New England's largest volume discount tire dealer. Our huge buying power guarantees you the lowest price with truckloads of snow tires and all-season tires arriving daily. At Town Fair Tire, you receive free mounting, free tire rotation, free snow tire changeover, free flat repair, all at the guaranteed lowest price. Town Fair Tire guarantees the lowest price on Riken tires. So get ready for winter driving. See the tire professionals at Town Fair Tire.
Name brands and discount prices. Town Fair Tire.
This weekend, Hartford Civic Center. Pentium computers with monitor $299. Pentium laptops $399. Software 50% off. Shoes from $10. Nike, Reebok, Fila, Adidas. More shoes from $10. PlayStation, N64, and Dreamcast games $10. PlayStation 2 games $19. Satellite systems $29. Car CD players $49. 200-watt car amps and kickers $29. Cellular phones, no credit check, no deposit, free airtime. Car TVs $99. Hartford Civic Center. Friday noon to 10. Saturday 10 to 9. Sunday 11 to 6. Visit 100deals.com.
If anyone should know about the potentially sinister uses of anthrax and other biological and chemical agents, it's Ken Alibek. He defected to the United States after 2 decades overseeing the Soviet Union's biological weapons program. 30,000 people reported to him, and he told Congress that some 7,000 to 9,000 of those have the knowledge to create and disseminate biological agents. Dr. Alibek is with us here in Washington. And when you talk about those 7,000 to 9,000 people, where are they? What are they doing? Does anybody know?
It's very difficult to answer this question. I'm assuming the great majority of them are still in Russia and in some other former Soviet Union countries. Some of them are in Europe, some of them in the United States, and I'm assuming some of them in some Asian and Middle Eastern countries.
Do you think some of them have been hired, in effect, as contract agents by people who might even be engaging in the kinds of things we're seeing here in the United States right now?
In my opinion, it's probable.
Because?
Because, you know, when we talk about the scientists, we know that many of them, I would say the great majority of them, are underemployed or unemployed. You can imagine if these scientists are making about 1,500 rubles a month.
How much is that in dollars?
It's about $50 a month. Of course, if they've got an offer, $10,000 or $20,000 or $30,000 offer, of course it's a very high temptation.
You have, Dr. Alibek, a very gloomy sort of view of the protective measures that are being considered against anthrax, because you say no sooner, for example, do we inoculate everyone against anthrax, if we were to do that, then our enemies could move to another agent. What are you talking about?
You know, what's going on in this country now, we know how many scares, how many attempts to infect people, and we know what kind of psychological situation we've got here in the United States. And, you know, some people started talking about a necessity to vaccinate the entire population of the United States. In my opinion, it's one of the most impossible or unacceptable decisions.
Because?
Because you can imagine several things. First, we've got today a vaccine developed several years ago, which would require 6 shots and up to 18 months, over 18 months period time.
To become effective.
To become effective. The second issue, could you imagine a situation that we need to manufacture 250 or 280 doses of this anthrax vaccine? Not just doses, you know, just multiply by 6. And you know, just it's absolutely impossible from many standpoints, financially, logistically, and many other standpoints. But you know, there is another issue. It's very simple. Let's imagine a fantastic situation. We vaccinate everybody against anthrax. Very next day, we're going to see plague or smallpox or something else. And you know, in this case, it's not a possible solution. We need to do something else.
All right, let's, for the sake of argument, say that what you were saying is absolutely correct. The minute we protect ourselves against anthrax, our enemies go to plague or to smallpox, or what are some of the other options?
It could be Marburg infection.
What is that?
Marburg infection.
What is that?
Marburg virus is a close cousin of Ebola virus. It was developed in Russia, and it showed a very high effectiveness. And in addition to this, you know what we need to keep in mind? A number of biological agents could be used in biological weapons is very, very high. Several dozen biological agents could be used in biological weapons.
You've spelled out for me in some considerable detail what the problems are. What are the solutions? Is there a solution?
In my opinion, there is a solution. Keeping in mind that there are many biological weapon threat agents, we need to start thinking broadly. And saying this, I mean that theoretically it's possible to develop a broad-spectrum defense against biological weapons.
Is this something you take as a pill or as an injection?
I consider it could be used as a pill or in the form of aerosol to inhale.
And what would it do?
It would enhance your innate immunity and develop a first line of defense against a wide variety of biological weapons agents.
Is that something, once you've inhaled it or once you've taken the pill, that lasts for an appreciable period of time, or does it have to keep being renewed?
You know, because it's innate immunity response, it's not going to last forever. But if we inhale, for example, today, depending on the type of preparation, it could last for 1, 2, 3, or 4 weeks.
Put as bluntly as you can and as quickly as you can, if we were to begin work on it and if the money were made available immediately, how long would it be before there would be a workable product on the market?
I know of 3 companies working in this field, and this 3 company working very intensely to develop protection based on innate immunity. So in my opinion, if we've got something in the neighborhood of $150 million, it would take about 18, 20, 24 months to develop protection based on modulation of innate immunity.
That interview conducted earlier this evening. Dr. Alibak also told us that scientists in the former Soviet Union were working on a defense against biological weapons, and he believes the Russians today would be willing to work jointly with America on such a project. It should also be noted that Alibak's Virginia company is currently developing so-called human immune system boosters. Back in a moment.
Tens of thousands of people continue to purchase new Oldsmobiles, like the completely redesigned 2002 Bravada. Are they impressed with its best-in-class 270 horsepower engine? Are they impressed with its 5-year, 60,000-mile GM protection plan? Or are they simply impressed? Are you in the market? Get in an Oldsmobile, backed by GM. Right now, get interest-free financing on all new Oldsmobiles. Let's help keep America rolling.
Come on, you can do it. Just 30 seconds of Listerine, twice a day. Sure, it's a little intense, but think of all the germs you're killing. Listerine even kills the germs that can cause plaque and the gum disease gingivitis. That's right, you're fighting plaque and gingivitis every time. Keep it up, keep it up. Don't wimp out now. There. See? You can handle it. Germs can't. Listerine. Worth the time, every time.
The new economy isn't more high-tech than the old new economy. The new economy is more efficient. It requires scalable inventories, tighter supply chains, and most important, the realization that even the most efficient workforce can't work very well if it doesn't have anything to work on. SAP.
What does it really take to produce anthrax? Who could be producing it? And are public health officials telling us everything we need to know? Tomorrow, turn to World News Tonight.
We should get out of here, now!
This film has been given an R rating for horror, violence, gore, nudity, and some language. So be warned. From the producers of House on Haunted Hill, 13 Ghosts, rated R, starts October 26th.
George Hart Infiniti offers the most luxurious cars on the planet at the most attractive prices in Connecticut. Treat yourself to a richly appointed Infiniti with leather and lavish detailing. Indulge in Hart's exclusive total dealership experience. Free loaner cars, roadside assistance. Get 3.9% financing and special manufacturer lease programs on new 2002 Infinitis, like the all-new 350 horsepower Q45. George Hart Infiniti, West Haven. Hart Infiniti, Hartford. You gotta have Hart.
Thinking about painting your car? Stop thinking, do it. Maaco's still offering the Ambassador Paint Service for only $189, the best economy paint service in America. For a great finish and a beautiful deal, call 1-888-MAACO-USA.
We still have a lot to learn about dealing with anthrax. For the Florida residents at the center of the first anthrax attack, where one person is already dead, the condition of the second victim seems shrouded in confusion. As ABC's Steve Osunsami reports, fear is turning to frustration.
This morning, blood test number 2 for employees of American Media. A few hours into the testing, the workers start to worry. A team of FBI agents in protective white suits have returned to their contaminated offices down the road. Authorities never explain why, but say there's no reason to panic. This does not go over well.
This is the first time that they've had to deal with something like this, and they are really not sure. And so we're sort of, I guess, guinea pigs for the rest of the population at the moment.
Many of the concerned residents in this community point to the story of Ernesto Blanco to underline their mistrust of area authorities. The American Media mailroom worker is hospitalized October 1st with pneumonia, about a week after authorities believe he may have come in contact with anthrax spores. On October 4th, health officials say they suspect he was exposed to anthrax spores discovered in his company's mailroom.
That he has traces of it, but that he does not have the disease, that he has not developed the disease.
2 days go by. Now they're certain he was exposed. A week later, a new development. Doctors announce Blanco has now developed the disease. That night, his wife reports he's back in intensive care, fighting lung failure.
This means so much to our city.
But yesterday, at a news conference the governor attended,
we're classifying Mr. Blanco as possibly having anthrax infection.
What sounded like a complete reversal.
At this point, we have not conclusively identified anthrax, the germ, anthrax, the bacillus in his system.
Blanco's family says the different health agencies monitoring the 73-year-old's case haven't always agreed on his condition, his progress, even his illness. Tonight, family members say they are so confused, even they don't have a sure answer to one important question. Is Blanco suffering from the disease?
That's confusing to me. It's hard for me to give you an answer. It depends on who you speak to. Who's told me personally? Personally, the CDC, last I heard from them, he didn't have it, but yet I read the press release. So according to the press release, I assume that he does have the anthrax disease.
Tests are part of the confusion. Experts say that the only test currently used to determine exposure searches for spores still lodged in the nose and misses anthrax spores already inhaled. The second test a worried physician would then turn to, a blood test, is not always reliable.
What these tests don't seem to be quite as good at is showing when it's negative.
For the hundreds of AMI employees trying to determine if they have real reason to worry, not encouraging.
The tests aren't telling us anything. 1 minute we're negative, 1 minute we're positive. It's scary.
The truth changes so much, people here say they no longer know what to believe. For Nightline, I'm Steve Osunsami in Boca Raton, Florida.
Can anthrax be passed along $1 bill at a time? Tonight's fact check in a moment.
To receive a daily email announcement about each evening's Nightline and a preview of special broadcasts, log on to the Nightline page at abcnews.com.
In this time of need, the American Red Cross is profoundly grateful for your generous outpouring of support. A long period of uncertainty and recovery awaits us all. Thanks to your contributions, the American Red Cross is providing life-saving assistance, including food, shelter, grief counseling, and precious blood. We still need your help. Please call 1-800-HELP-NOW to offer your financial support. Thank you. Together, we can save a life.
Baby's heartbeat's strong. Good. BP's fine. Well, I think he's ready to come out. Everything looks great. We'll induce in the morning.
Oh, no, that won't work for me.
Sears Days, a sale so big it only happens twice a year.
I've got to record his birth. I've got to fix up his room. I've got to lose weight after he's born. So, no, sorry.
Big savings you want on the top brands you need or might need soon. Only at Sears. Where else?
Nissan Altima.
Rita and Johnny are in love with stealing and also fighting.
Rita 1, anger management 0.
A New Thieves, Friday night 8 Central on ABC.
It's Dworkin Chevy's gigantic pre-owned sale of the year. We're keeping America rolling with rock-bottom prices. Chevys, Hondas, Jeeps, Nissans, Toyotas, Dodges, Fords, and more. Pick your car. Pay from $129 per month. Plus, get 6.9% financing. Every car comes with a 1-year drivetrain warranty, 30-day exchange guarantees, free loaner cars, and free car washes. So pick up the phone and keep America rolling. Do it for you. Do it for America. Do it today. Dworkin's gigantic pre-owned sale of the year ends Wednesday, October 31st.
Say goodbye to water problems. Call Connecticut's well water specialists, Greco and Haynes. Day or night, 7 days a week, Greco and Haynes will service any water system, and there's never an overtime charge. If you're building a home, need a re-drill or fracking, the professionals at Greco and Haynes will coordinate the process, customize and install your complete water system. Make sure your well and water system are safe and efficient. Call Greco and Haynes. Water is their only business.
Confirming or dispelling stories you've heard on the rumor mill. That's what we're calling our fact check. You've emailed lots of questions to us, including many about anthrax. This one: if anthrax can be sent by mail, could someone also dust our money with it, thereby having it passed from hand to hand by millions of people? The possibility is scaring me to death. Please tell me it's not possible. After calling the Treasury Department, we were referred to the Department of Health and Human Services, which used phrases such as highly unlikely, highly improbable, and almost impossible that someone could be exposed to anthrax through the money supply. And then the Treasury Department added this: there is no way to embed anthrax into currency. Perhaps one less thing to keep you up at night. Tomorrow on Good Morning America, Charles Gibson reports here from Washington on the shutdown of Senate offices, and Charlie will be talking with some of the staffers tested for anthrax. That's our report for tonight. I'm Ted Koppel in Washington. For all of us here at ABC News, good night.
You can order a transcript or video cassette of this or any other Nightline broadcast by dialing 1-800-CALL-ABC.
This has been a presentation of ABC News. More Americans get their news from ABC News than from any other source.
For the last 8 years, it's been a privilege to represent New York's finest. Now, we consider it an honor.
On Tuesday, November 6th at 9/8 Central, the season premiere of NYPD Blue is a 2-hour movie event. Viewer discretion advised.
Thinking about painting your car? Stop thinking, do it. Maaco's still offering the Ambassador Paint Service for only $189, the best economy paint service in America. How do we do it? Maaco paints more cars than anyone, 12 million, still counting. And that's why we charge less than anyone. Our Ambassador Paint Service is only $189. Maaco gives more value than anyone. What's value? Quality and price. For a great finish and a beautiful deal, call 1-888-MAACO-USA.
At GMC, our engineers have been designing trucks exclusively for 100 years. Now, we want to help keep America rolling with interest-free financing on all GMC trucks, vans, and SUVs. The power of Sierra, the agility of Yukon, the comfort and luxury of Envoy. Every new GMC comes with 0% APR through October 31st. Upgrade to professional grade and help keep America rolling. See the pros at your local GMC dealer.
This weekend, Hartford Civic Center. Clothing from $10. Levi's, Guess, Calvin Klein, Victoria's Secret, Polo, Hilfiger, more clothing from $10. Shoes from $10. 9 West, Nike, Reebok, Adidas, Fila, more shoes from $10. Leather boots, $19. 3-piece luggage sets, $49. Leather jackets, $49. Cool Water, Curve, Escape, Eternity, Versace, White Diamonds, CK1, Tommy, more perfume and cologne, all $19. Beautiful jewelry, rings and chains, watches, Seiko, Citizen, Fossil, more. Hartford Civic Center. Friday noon to 10, Saturday 10 to 9, Sunday 11 to 6. Visit 100deals.com.
Visit our website at www.wtnh.com.